Hey there, HorseCenter fans. Matt and I are back with another exciting edition of the show. Matt, we're talking Pegasus World Cup today.
We certainly are. And the World Cup turf, Brian, the big day Saturday at Gulfstream Park.
Full field analysis and picks in the big races at Gulfstream, Matt. Maybe a little bit of this and that to end the show. Watch it all right now here on HorseCenter. Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipsy, and as always, I have the sensational pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Schiffman. How are you today, Matt?
I am very good, Brian. It's Pegasus World Cup Day. Two big races at Gulfstream. What's the plural of Pegasus, Brian?
I don't think it's Pegasi, Matt, but I'm not sure. Let's start talking about these big races, Matt. Now, there were a few changes, of course. The purses were slashed, so to speak. I mean, we're still talking about millions down here, and these horses are running without Lasix. What do you think of the changes to the Pegasus, and maybe how it will be affected by the new Saudi Cup?
Well, Brian, I think the move down in purse money for the Pegasus was sort of inevitable. Nothing negative about that in my eyes. They tried something different and new and innovative, and that's important in racing. Sometimes things work out the way you plan. Other times you have to call an audible, and that's what they've done here. So still a good race, the Pegasus, Brian. Race 12 on the card, 1.1 miles. There's 5 millionaires in the field, 2 others that are close to being millionaires, 4 Grade 1 winners, 10 graded stakes winners in there. It's a good field. I don't know what to think about the Lasix. I don't know how you can predict how it's going to be with Lasix being used as extensively as it is here in this country. I have a feeling that it could maybe have a more significant impact in the Pegasus turf, especially with a couple of the horses that have come over from Europe.
Yeah, and Matt, I agree with everything you said. I will say that I am in favor of these Lasix-free races. And of course, we've done a little bit of this with the Breeders' Cup and the 2-year-olds. Horsemen, a lot of horsemen, that is, and a lot of gamblers that are betting on the Pegasus are going to disagree with me. But I'm looking at the long-term good of the sport, and I think this is the right move. And you got to start somewhere. And I kind of like the move to do it in such a big weekend of racing. All right. Now let's get down to the racing. You mentioned it, Matt. It's 1.1 miles at Gulfstream Park. $3 million this year, the Pegasus World Cup. We got a field of 12. True Timber breaking from the rail, Matt. He was an also-ran last year. I'm going to predict he's an also-ran again this year coming from Calumet Farm.
I am going to agree with you. True Timber from the rail is a toss for me, but that's how deep this field is, Brian. This horse has won $950,000 in his career, so almost a millionaire. 3 straight thirds in graded stakes races in New York coming into it, but has never won one of those.
You said he's a toss. I think he's a toss as well. But the number 2 horse, Matt, Tax, I don't think he's a toss. He's only run once in several months now, and that came almost 2 months ago in the Discovery. He ran second that day, but I thought it was a very good performance.
I agree. He ran second to a very, very good Phipps Shug McGahee horse, an up-and-coming horse that I think we'll see a good bit of this year. We know Tax had some big wins last year as a 3-year-old in the Jim Dandy, in the Withers. I think he's going to get a good pace set up in here with a pressing or stalking running style in here in Pegasus that seems to have a lot of front-end speed.
Yeah, the front-end speed here seems to be loaded on the outside of the starting gate, Matt. I think Tax might get a good trip as well if he can stay off the lead a little bit. I'd like to see him sit 5th or 6th early, and he's been able to do that a little bit in his career. Biggest career win was the Jim Dandy, which was also 9 furlongs. He's 12-1 on the morning line. I think he's a horse that is interesting. I could see him running 7th or 8th, but I certainly could see him getting into the picture here. And if he's at least 12-1, a horse may be worth putting in. And I would say the same about the number 3, Matt, a very interesting horse. His name is Diamond Oops. I think a lot of people are going to write him off a little bit in this race as a sprinter. But if you look at his record at Gulfstream Park and the fact that he was able to win a really big race on turf, albeit, but a really big race at 1 mile last fall, I think Diamond Oops is an interesting, often underrated horse.
Yeah, Brian, I agree with what you're saying, but I may throw in there that there might be good reason that he's a little bit underrated, particularly that he has not won a race above the grade 3 level in here. Yes, he has 5 wins at Gulfstream Park. And on the positive also is that his running style, he's going to get the right setup in here. So has a good chance of running at the end.
Yeah, well, that was a grade 1 at Keeneland on the grass, Matt. I just think if you look at his odds, and you're going to see it again in here, he's consistently high on the odds board, and he runs an awful lot of good races. I'm going to draw a line through the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile with him, where I think the start and the wide trip really did him in that field, especially on that track. So Diamond Oops, much like Tax for me, I think they are horses that can sit kind of in the middle of the pack and maybe take an early advantage if the pace starts to come back a little bit. He's 20-1 on the morning line. Matt, last year, the number 4 horse, Seeking the Soul, was second in this race. This year, he's 30-1, and it looks like he's 30-1 with good reason.
Yeah, it certainly does. His past record is fantastic. A winner of over $3 million, a grade 1 winner in the past. But Brian, his last 4 races just been bad, and I think the best racing days of Seeking the Soul are past.
Yeah, I'm with you, Matt. There's just not much to recommend. Of course, he went out to California. Then he had a race back at Churchill Downs, and he really didn't show much of anything in any of those races. If you want to take a shot, like Matt and I started to talk about, there should be a strong pace in here. If he can regain former form, he's an interesting long shot, but he's not going to be for me in here. All right, Matt, we finally got to the number 5 horse ridden by Mike Smith, Omaha Beach. It's his swan song. Horses who have made their swan song, by the way, in the Pegasus have done well in the short history of this race. 7-5 on the morning line, Matt, Omaha Beach.
Yeah, Brian, that has been the scenario for the most part in the Pegasus. Horses making their last start, heading on to stud. Millionaire won 5 of his last 6 starts. The one race he didn't win was when he ran second in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, and you folks that have been watching the show, we've talked about that race before. I don't know. I think the only knock you can have against this horse was the little hiccup he had a couple weeks ago with some heat in his hoof, but that seems to have gone away very quickly. Mandela, Mike Smith, I guarantee you Mike Smith's not going to get too far behind in the Pegasus with Omaha Beach this time.
Yeah, and I kind of foresee a trip much like Tax and Diamond Oops that I was talking about, kind of sitting just off the speed, but not too far away. I don't think he's heads and tails over this field in a way. Like I look at the speed figures and I look at his performances, and I don't think he's a horse that wins this race by 6 lengths. But on the other hand, he's just really consistent, really classy. I think the distance fits well. I think the race setup fits well. I just think he's the best horse in here. I love to pick against favorites, but I'm not going to do it in here. I think Omaha Beach really is a likely winner. It's a shame we won't see him as a 4-year-old past this race, but I'd like to see him run his best in the Pegasus and go off to stud. As for the little foot issue, I really feel pretty strongly that Richard Mandela, Spendthrift at Fox Hill, wouldn't be running him if there was any issue at all with Omaha Beach. Number 6 on the list here, Matt, is Higher Power. Higher Power is listed as the fourth choice, 6-1. Most recently, he was third, albeit a well-beaten third, in the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Yes, Brian. And his big win came this past summer in the Pacific Classic at Del Mar. That was at 1.25 miles. And, you know, I think that distance is his best type of race. And I mean, it's Sadler, it's Flavian Pratt, another millionaire, another Grade 1 winner, going to be running from off the pace in here. But I tell you, Brian, in terms of picking closers that I'm going to use to get into the exactor trifecta underneath Omaha Beach, I think I like others better than Higher Power.
I really don't. I think this is another race that sets up pretty well for Higher Power. Sadler, of course, was upset last year with Accelerate, getting beat by City of Light in this race. I think Higher Power makes a lot of sense in here. I don't see him beating Omaha Beach per se, but if the race kind of sets up where I expect, where the pace is strong and contested, I think Higher Power, as a classy, in-form horse who can make up some ground, makes a lot of sense to run second in here. You know, he had a little trouble the race before the Breeders' Cup. The Pacific Classic, of course, was a big performance, and he was really third best in the Breeders' Cup Classic. So back at 9 furlongs, if he can do it on the East Coast like he's done it on the West Coast, I think he's got a big shot to be second, my most likely horse to run second in here. All right, number 7, Matt, the old war horse. His name is War Story. He's coming off a nice win over the track. Yeah,
hey, a new trainer in Elizabeth Dobles. Joel Rosario is up. That was a huge win for the 8-year-old. Every time you think it's time to ignore War Story, he comes up and runs a big one. Has won almost $3 million. I'll tell you what, Brian, I'm going to use him. I was impressed with that race. He's so game. I'm going to use him in my trifecta tickets. I'd rather take a shot with a horse like that than end up with Higher Power in there with Omaha Beach.
Yeah, and I don't blame you, Matt. War Story. I've enjoyed War Story since I was had him pretty high up on my Kentucky Derby list many years ago. He's been a nice story, a nice horse. He's closing in on $3 million in the earnings list. I do like other long shots better. I think Diamond Oops, Tax have more upside than War Story. I just think he's a cut below, and I think that really means if he runs his race, he rambles up for 5th in here. But nice win last time, and a nice story over the years. All right, Matt, number 8, Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze is a talented horse, and he's been running well lately. He's been running into Tom State Tot lately, but he's run well in losing to Tom State Tot. He definitely adds to the speed of the Pegasus World Cup.
Yeah, all of those things are true, Brian. I think he is a talented horse in this race, but he's just not going to get the right setup with so much other speed in this race. It's tough for me to endorse Mr. Freeze.
Okay, number 9 is the second choice on the morning line, and I'm pretty sure he will be the second choice when the starting gates open. His name is Spun to Run, Matt. 7-2 on the morning line. He's your Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile winner over Omaha Beach.
Yeah, and his last 3-4 races have just been excellent. The win in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, which he followed with a second place in the Cigar Mile in New York behind Maximum Security, and he beat a lot of nice horses in that race. He hasn't done anything wrong recently. But again, Brian, this is a horse that likes to be up on the pace, and he's not going to have it easy in here, kind of like he did in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. And as the second choice in this race, I'm not so thrilled.
Yeah, I agree with you again, Mr. Schiffman. Spun to Run is a deserving second choice for the reasons you talked about. He's been a good horse since last summer, a really good horse since last fall. nothing wrong at all with those last three races. But I think he got the perfect setup in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, both himself and the horse that he beat, Omaha Beach. I don't see him beating Omaha Beach this time around. That's my opinion. Very good horse, but there's speed right to his inside. There's speed right to his outside. There's a lot of speed around him. He's coming out of the 9 hole as the clear second choice. I got to take a stand against Spun to Run in this spot. Mucho Gusto, and by the way, Spun to Run may just prove to be the second best horse and run like it in here. But as handicappers, we like to take a stand against horses that get a lot of money. Number 10 is Mucho Gusto, Matt. 9-2 on the morning line. I want to ask you this: does he deserve to be below Higher Power as the third choice?
Oh, Brian, sitting here getting ready to talk about this horse. I was loaded up here. Wow, 9-2? Come on. I think that's a silly morning line. Maybe it's accurate, but hey, I wouldn't touch Mucho Gusto at 9-2 with your money, my friend. He did some good things out in Santa Anita earlier in his career. Doesn't have a win above the grade 3 level. I think this race is just way too tough, and maybe they're looking ahead to other things also. Brian, what do you think about the rider switch of Irad Ortiz getting off of Spun to Run to ride Mucho Gusto?
Yeah, that was a little surprising, and the Baffert factor and Irad Ortiz. I guess Mucho Gusto gets played a little bit here. I don't think he deserves to be the third choice either, but maybe he is actually the third choice because of some of those connections. He ran some good races. Hey, his Haskell and his Travers were good races, but the running style and the spot in here just doesn't look good for him. He was beaten in the Oklahoma Derby by Lesser. I think they're respecting the horses that were 3-year-olds in 2019 a lot in here, but frankly, I don't like them any better than Tax, and I think Tax has a better race setup, frankly. So, I'm off Mucho Gusto in this one as well. I'm not going to be supporting the 11. At one point, I thought Tenfold might be a really nice horse. The Son of Curlin actually ran a good race in the Preakness before, but a couple of years now since then, and it just doesn't look like he fits with the very best of this game.
I agree with you, Brian, much like True Timber, almost a millionaire, but this is too tough a race.
Yeah, Pimlico Special winner last year. That was a weak Pimlico Special. Not as good since. We're gonna pass on Tenfold. Number 12 is also a long shot, Matt. Non-stakes winner, Bodie Express. We know him well from the Florida Derby, the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, all of those interesting things he did in those races. But to me, the most interesting thing about Bodie Express is a lot of speed coming from the far outside.
Yeah, I guess that's interesting, but certainly going to make it tough. This is the horse with the least purse money in the entire field. 12 hole, 30-1. I will pass.
Yeah, and I actually think he could run a good race in here, and maybe he's on the lead with others chasing him far behind. But I just can't come up with a scenario where he hangs around to be first or second, for example. So I'm with Matt. Bodie Express in here, tough. All right, Matt, we kind of talked about who we liked as we went through the whole field. Let's talk about what you're thinking about doing as far as your top pick and your some of your plays in here.
Okay, Brian, I think I'm going to do a trifecta in here. Real simple, with Omaha Beach on top of Tax and War Story on top of All. And then I'm going to do Omaha Beach with All on top of Tax and War Story. Not a big price ticket, but hey, I'm taking a shot.
Yeah, I like Tax better than War Story on your ticket, but interesting. I'm going to do a couple things here, Matt. Pretty simple as well. I think Omaha Beach wins it, so my trifecta key is just going to include 3 horses for second and third. Hopefully 2 of the 3 can get in there, and they should have reasonably good odds. I got Higher Power in there at 6-1, fourth choice on the morning line, but I also got Tax 12-1 and Diamond Oops at 20-1. I I think I can sneak 2 of those in, passing some of the speed that will be bet below him. So I'm going to do a dollar trifecta key with Omaha Beach on top, and that'll just cost you $6, right? Right, Matt? 3 times 2 underneath Omaha Beach. I will do a little exacta box too, just in case Omaha Beach throws in a clunker in a swan song. I'm going to have my 3 long shots, tax, diamond oops, and a higher power box in the exacta there. See if I can't get a bomb. But Omaha Beach for me is going to be your Pegasus winner, and then we'll say goodbye to him off to Spendthrift Farm.
I agree.
All right, Matt, let's go to the turf. Pegasus Turf also has a field of 12. It's 1 mile and 3/16 over the Gulfstream Park turf course. And Matt, this field is wide open. Number 1, Zula Alpha, 12-1 on the morning line. He's got a pretty good record at Gulfstream Park.
Hey, yeah, and just let me say, there hasn't been that much talk about the field in the Pegasus Turf, but overall, the field in this race is better than in the dirt race, with more Grade 1 winners, more graded stakes winners, more millionaires in this spot. So, like you said, we're starting with Zulu Alpha on the rail for Michael Maker. Is a Grade 3 winner. Last time won the Kentucky Cup at Kentucky Downs. I'm going to pass on that horse.
Yeah, I think there's a few horses in here that are probably better at 12 furlongs than 9.5. 1 mile 3/16 is kind of a tweener distance, so that part of it is interesting to me. Zula Alpha is a long shot that I could see doing something in here, but I just like others a little bit better. Number 2 is one of the horses I like better, Arklow. 6-1 on the morning line, Matt. I've always liked him. He's won at 9 furlongs. But him, too, I wonder if 12 furlongs is a better distance for him. He was 8th in the Breeders' Cup Turf, but if you look, he wasn't beaten all that much in the Breeders' Cup Turf.
And a winner of a Grade 1 winner of the Turf Classic at Belmont Park, gets a new rider in this race for trainer Brad Cox.
Yeah, no Florent Giroux this time on Arklow. I think he's a horse that probably runs a good race, but I think he's a horse that probably doesn't win this race, although I would like to see him win. Number 3, Matt, I think is a horse you got to talk about a little bit. Without Parole, I was a little surprised. He was my long shot, if you remember, in the Breeders' Cup Mile. I ran a good race. I was surprised he was only 8-1 that day, and I was a little surprised he's 4-1 second choice, almost a favorite on the morning line.
Well, Brian, that's the power of Chad Brown and Chad Brown winning the big turf races around our country with such regularity. He came over to the U.S. where in Europe, he was a Grade 1 winner. He was a Grade 1 winner at Royal Ascot. So he's got great credentials. The Breeders' Cup Mile was the first American start for Chad Brown, son of Frankel. Chad does great things with these kind of horses. I do have a little bit of concern that I kind of mentioned at the beginning of the show. A lot of times these horses come over from Europe, and Without Parole was one of them, because they need Lasix, and he came over and got Lasix, and now he has to go without it. I guess that could be a negative. You could just as well say, hey, but he's already run really well without Lasix before, so it shouldn't be a problem. Okay, I get both arguments there, and as a handicapper, I guess I just have to ignore that stuff and stick with the horse that I think is best.
Yeah, Without Parole has run well in Europe, certainly. Without Lasix, he's been over in America for a while now. Is he Chad Brown's next turf star? He may well be. The Breeders' Cup Mile was a very good performance, rallying for 3rd behind the fillies. Is he as good at 1 mile 3/16 is a question in my mind as well, although he does have some experience going farther in Europe, but he might be best at 1 mile. So we'll see. Certainly a dangerous horse in here. Number 4, another dangerous horse, Sadler's Joy. but also maybe at 8-1 on the morning line, another horse who might want a little bit more distance to uncoil that big, powerful rally of his.
Yeah, I think that's true. And when they went down to Florida with this horse, I don't think the Pegasus was necessarily a goal for the now 7-year-old, but the reports are that he's just been doing so well that trainer Tom Albertrani decided to give him a shot in here. Hey, and fans of Saddler's Joy know full well that he rarely runs a bad race.
Yeah, consistent late runner, Saddler's Joy, coming off a win in the Red Smith. So certainly one to be respected, maybe certainly one to think about getting into your exotics. Number 5 is another horse you just can't throw out, Channel Cat. The one thing about Channel Cat, he's been knocking heads with a lot of these horses, but his best race, I think that I can see, is when he went to the lead early, and there's not a lot of speed in here. So I wonder if Channel Cat may show a little bit more speed in here and thus become a more dangerous horse.
Yeah, and you've got Hall of Fame rider Johnny V up on Channel Cat, and I'll tell you what, even at his age and big races, Johnny V has been tremendous in the last year or so, as he has been throughout his career. But if anybody can do it on the lead, Johnny V can. And you're right, Brian. You just can't throw him out.
Yeah. Nor can you throw out the number 6 horse, who may be lower than his 10-1 on the morning line. Another Chad Brown horse. This is Instilled Regard. You'll remember him as a very nice 3-year-old a few years ago. He's missed a lot of time, but it looks like he's kind of settling in now as a turf horse. And his race up in New York late last year was pretty good. And then his stakes win at Florida was a nice win.
Yeah, and he's had some time off, but I think that's a product of the transition to the barn of Chad Brown, Chad figuring out the horse and getting him situated as a turf runner. That was a grade 2 in the Fort Lauderdale at Gulfstream Park. Certainly you can't throw him out, but I agree, Brian, because it's Chad and it's IRAD, very well could be less than 10-1.
Yeah. Number 7 is a longer shot on the board, Matt. 30-1 is Admission Office. And this is a horse I've been watching for a while. He's had some interesting trips where he had a little bad luck here and there, all but a consistent rallier. Now he's stretching out to 1 mile 3/16 against a tough field.
Yeah, against a tough field, and this is a horse that has yet to win a stakes race.
Okay, number 8, Henley's Joy, Matt. Henley's Joy is certainly a stakes winner. He's also 30-1 on the morning line, though, coming off a couple of losses to Mo Forza out in California.
Hey, and that's all everybody has done is lose to Mo Forza recently, and we'll talk more about him shortly. This is Michael Maker and Julian Leparoux, and you really can never discount Mike Maker. Horses on the turf, winner of the Belmont Derby back on Belmont Stakes Day in June.
Yeah, absolutely. Another horse I wouldn't throw out. Number 9, another long shot at 30-1 on the morning line, Next Shares. And if you've been following our sport for a few years, you know that every once in a while, Next Shares throws in a big race.
Hey, Brian Zipsy, 30-1 on Next Shares, and Richard Baltus, who is my main man training horses on the turf from California. I will take it. I will take anything, any kind of wager at 30-1 on Next Shares. Winner of the Grade 2 Seabiscuit at Del Mar in November. I saw an interview with Richard Baltus, and he said this horse is loaded and full of himself. Making the trip across the country. I like this one.
Nice. And Next Year's is certainly a horse I can't throw out on his best. He's awfully good. I do worry about his consistency in here. He doesn't always show up, and this is a deep and tough field, so I'm not quite as high in him as you are. But the 30-1 is attractive. Number 10 will be one of the favorites. Number 10 is the son of Uncle Mo, the Streaking 4-year-old Mo Forza. He's the youngest horse in this race, Matt, but he's the hottest horse in this race.
He sure is, Brian. I'm not quite sure what happened, but Peter Miller has a way of turning horses around, and he certainly did that with Mo Forza. Won a maiden special weight, and now has won 4 in a row. That's a grade 2, a grade 1, and another grade 2. Got Joel Rosario in the saddle, and hey, on the turf, nobody better to have than Joel. All those races, Brian, have been in California.
Yeah, 5-1 on the morning line. I think he's got a big shot. He looked really good late last year. As you said, rattling off 4 straight wins against good horses in California. He's never been this far. Mile 3/16. That's a little bit of question for the son of Uncle Mo. And as Matt said, he's a California horse. So will he bring his very best from California to Florida? But certainly a real contender in here, and a real contender to be a horse who could take over as America's top turf male in the coming year. Number 11, Matt, is another import, and another import with some things to like. 12-1 on the morning line. I'm talking about Sacred Life.
Another Chad Brown. Brother Jose Ortiz is up on this horse. A grade 3 winner. 3 seconds as of late, and in the U.S. won an allowance race. Probably the least preferred for me of the 3 Chad Brown horses.
Yeah, I wouldn't throw him out, and I'm saying that a lot in this race, but I'm not going to jump on him. I think he will get bet a little bit. Maybe 12-1 is his ceiling in here. He just hasn't proven that he can beat this type, and he's had some chances in America. So number 11, Sacred Light. And finally, we get to the favorite on the outside, number 12, the only female in the field. She was second to Bricks and Mortar last year. Magic Wand, 7-2. Matt, there's no Bricks and Mortar for her to beat this year.
There is not, Brian. Magic Wand, the team of Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore, recent grade 1 winner. So like you said, second in the Pegasus turf last year, has won scads and scads of money. I think, Brian, way over $4 million in earnings. Travels really well all over the world. It doesn't matter whether it's Australia or Asia or the U.S. or any place in Europe. The one concern is only 3 wins in all of those races. And I know Magic Wand has been running against the best competition. The 5-year-old mare takes on the boys all the time. 12 post. Are we concerned about that? Maybe a little bit, but it's hard not to use Magic Wand. I don't know. What do you think about the 7-2 morning line odds, Brian?
Actually, I think it's about right, Matt. I think without question, she is the classiest horse in this race. Really amazing what she's done. Hey, if it wasn't for Bricks and Mortar, we'd be talking about her as a Pegasus Turf winner last year, as an Arlington Million winner. Magic Wand really had a sensational year while only winning once last year, but she threw in a lot of good races, and it's really amazing. I can't remember any horse with more frequent flyer miles than what Magic Wand did. Coming to America numerous times, Dubai, Hong Kong. Her trip wasn't long-lived in Australia, but she ran in 3 big races down Australia, and she ran well. Her last race was awesome in Hong Kong. I do worry that eventually she's going to say no mas, and this is just a little bit too much travel and a little bit too much of all of it. Yeah, she hasn't won a lot, but I think against this field, she finds an easier field than she's actually used to, even though this is a good field. So certainly one of the ones to beat. If she brings her A game like she almost always does, she'll be tough in here. Matt, let me get some top pick prediction here from you in the Pegasus turf, and also maybe a wager.
Okay, Brian, I'm going to keep it simple in here. The field is really wide open, but I'm not enamored with a lot of the horses in the field. My top pick is, I'm not fighting Chad Brown. My top pick is Without Parole in here, and I'm just going to do an exacta box with Without Parole, Next Shares, and Magic Wand. I'm going to leave Mo Forza out here. I think he's going to get bet a lot, and I just don't like the trip out of California.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I can't blame you for keeping it simple. This field is so tough. There's really not one horse to be completely thrown out. And to prove it, Matt, I'm going to jump on Admission Office, who I don't think is high on your list at all. Admission Office 30-1 on the morning line. I just think he's been knocking on the door. I think the distance might actually help him in here. He's been running in a lot of races, just a tiny bit shorter than this. Mile and 3/16 might help him get there, and it might help him over the horses who really do prefer a mile and a half, which is quite a bit farther. He's going to be a bomb. He'll need to find his way through traffic, but I think he easily could have won a few of those races, including the last one against Instilled Regard, where he was flying late and just missed Instilled Regard. So Admission Office has a bomb. I like him. I'm going to put him a little bit to win on him, and I'm going to play him actually with the three favorites, a little bit of exactas under and over without parole, Magic Wand, and Mo Forza. So hopefully one of our long shots, Matt's got next shares in there. I got Admission Office. They're both 30-1 on the morning line, folks. If one of our long shots comes through, you'll be happy. You'll also be happy if you played what Matt suggested to play last week in the LeCompte. We both had 6-1 shots that day. Mine faded to just miss second to finish third. But yours, Matt, yours was a powerful winner, 6-1 enforceable. Well done in the LeCompte.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, and Matt, it's not just about Gulfstream Park and these Pegasus and the supporting stakes. They have a bunch of good supporting stakes. I wanted to mention a race coming from Sam Houston, one of my favorite smaller tracks in the country, Sam Houston Race Park down there outside of Houston, because they attracted a super field on Sunday, late in the day on Sunday. It's the Houston Ladies Classic. It's their biggest race of the year. And Matt, they have 3 Grade 1 winners. They have 5 graded stakes horses from last year, 5 graded stakes winners from last year. We're talking Serengeti, Empress, Street Band, Lady Apple, Out for a Spin, My Lady Curlin. It's only a 6-horse field, but it's a really good field.
Yeah, hey, they're doing some great things out there at Sam Houston. Great things for the horsemen with the purses way up, and I think that's why you're getting fields like you mentioned. And for the bettors, some really nice things with takeout. All of the multi-race wagers, the pick 3s, pick 4s, pick 5s, have very, very low takeout. So if you haven't taken a look at wagering at Sam Houston, there's lots of good reasons for it. Hey, and hasn't Larry Jones won this Houston Ladies Classic a few times, going for another one with Street Band?
Yeah. Jones has won this twice. Joyful Victory won it a few years ago, and Cassette won it as well. So Larry Jones is always tough. Serengeti Empress will be tough. Speed on the rail. The Ashland winner is rounding back into form, Out for a Spin. She's got some speed too, so we'll see if she can keep Serengeti Empress busy early. Street Band will be running late. My Lady Curlin, a really underrated, good older mare, I should say. And actually, my top pick in here, Matt, is Lady Apple, coming from the Steve Asmussen barn. She might be the 3rd or 4th choice in here, and she ran a lot of good races throughout the Midwest last year. I think she might be able to stalk and pounce in the Houston Ladies Classic. Don't miss that one late in the day on Sunday. Now, we also got the Eclipse Awards happening tonight. The time this show is out, the Eclipse Awards will probably be going on. I don't expect a lot of surprises in there. Bricks and Mortar is going to carry the day as the turf horse and the horse of the year. I'm most interested to see who wins the older male dirt division, because I think Matoli and Vino Rosso both have strong claims to that one.
Yeah, that's one of the ones that is up in the air at this point.
Yeah, and Matoli, of course, will be the sprinter of the year. So I'm kind of hoping Vino Rosso, a guy I've liked for a while now, gets his award too. But we'll see tonight with the Eclipse Awards. Hey, Matt, Pegasus World Cup, we ran down the field. Can I get a closing shot from you before we call it a show?
Absolutely, Brian. It'll be fun to watch these big races in Gulfstream. Racing is getting into stride with the big races of the year 2020. And of course, I want to thank our producer, Brett Workman, for putting together the show.
Absolutely. Thanks to Brett, and thanks for all of you watching every week. Matt and I sure do appreciate it. Hey, if you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel here on Horse Racing Nation, do so, please. I want to also thank our sponsor, the best contest site out there. That's Derby Wars. Enjoy Pegasus weekend, folks. We'll be talking Kentucky Derby preps a lot in the coming shows, so you don't want to miss that right here on HorseCenter. We'll see you right here next week